It's time to start hardening off our seedlings. These things will be ready to transplant in the garden a week from now, which is why I'm going to start the hardening off process right now. The varieties I have right here are broccoli, kohlrabi, red Russian kale, and dinosaur kale. The hardening off process usually takes about a week, and it's really easy to do and necessary while it's still colder outside to make sure that your plants adapt to the changes in temperatures. While it might be one temperature inside at a variable of a couple of degrees here or there, outside that temperature swing can be much, much larger. And what we're doing here is acclimating these plants to that temperature shift and change that they're going to be seeing. And we're also kind of getting them used to the sunlight, which can burn their leaves if they're not fully acclimated outdoors. And we put them outdoors in a really, really bright and sunny day right away. So today is an overcast day, it's cloudy, there's not a lot of direct sunlight, and then we're in here in the greenhouse too. I'm going to have the door open so it remains about 55 degrees in here. And the way you want to do this is you're going to bring all of your seedlings out for a couple of hours on the first day. You don't need a greenhouse to do this. You can do it right outside, but the biggest thing is making sure that they're not getting full sun on those first few days, because that will definitely scorch your plants and singe them pretty badly. So the best time to do this is times when you have like an overcast day, you got clouds in the sky, or even if you've got a nice shade tree or something like that that you can put them under. So bring them out for a couple of hours the first day, and then bring them back inside to where they were growing before. After that, you want to repeat this process every single day up until that week, increasing your amount of hours by a couple of hours, say an extra 2 or 3 hours each day, up until the point where they're ready to be grown outside throughout the entire night and they'll be fully acclimated. But make sure that very first night you leave them outside that it's not going to drop to the point where you're going to have a frost, because then while they might be semi-acclimated to the weather outside, they're not going to be acclimated to the point where they can handle a heavy frost or even a light to moderate frost. Like, you just want to avoid a frost on their first night outside. These little guys are delicate. You've been working so hard to grow them indoors, and I just really don't want your crops to go to waste because of a simple mistake that you can make. So make sure, keep them outside overnight on a night that's not going to drop below like 40 degrees Fahrenheit, just to be safe. And from there, you guys are good to keep them outside day after day. You can keep them in a greenhouse like I'll be doing, or you can transplant them directly into your garden, depending on the planting calendar on where you guys live. Again, just go on Farmer's Almanac's website, and look for their planting calendar. So if you guys just Google Almanac Planting Calendar, it's a great and easy resource if you don't have one printed out already. That'll tell you when you can start your seeds indoors with germination, when you can transplant them outdoors, and then also what kind of seeds should be sown directly outdoors by seed instead of germinating them indoors or in your greenhouse before the actual growing season starts. It's a great resource, and it's absolutely needed to make sure that you guys have success during this growing season. I do have a couple of videos out. If you don't know how to germinate your seeds, I've got videos on that. I'm starting a whole playlist that's going to be documenting our progress of growth from seed to the garden with these plants, and this is the very next step. We're just going to be starting to acclimate these off. A couple of other things that I do have inside that have not been, they're not grown enough to the point where they're ready to be acclimated, is our tomatoes and then our lettuces. Those tomatoes I'm going to bring out in about a week, and then our lettuce blends I'm going to bring those out in about a week as well. And then I'm going to start growing those and acclimating them out to the weather and hardening them off using the same process, a couple of hours the first day and then 4 to 5 hours the next day, and so on, just adding a few hours each day that they're out here. And that'll make sure that we have some great success. I will be growing these indoors in this greenhouse up until the point where they have about, say, 4 to 6 of their true leaves. Right now, some of these have one single set, some of these have 2 sets of true leaves. I've only got 1 set of true leaves on our kales, and then the same thing for our kohlrabi. They're just developing their first true set. The broccoli is doing all right. So once I get to the point where they have usually like at least 2 full sets of true leaves, that's to the point where I want to transplant them in the garden. Again, given that it's after that transplanting date that you can find on the Almanac's planting calendar. Hey, buddy.
Mommy got your broom.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Once we reach that date and they have those couple of true sets of leaves, then we'll go ahead and transplant them in the garden. And I'll show you guys how to take care of some of the leggy seedlings that you might be growing as well. We've got some that are growing pretty tall here, but there's a really quick and easy fix for those seedlings that'll be coming up in a video sometime this week. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Happy Easter to everybody. I know a lot of you just can't spend time with the family that you really want to, ourselves included.
I won't get down.
Okay. Which is very unfortunate, but lucky for us, we're still able to spend time together as a family, which is definitely a blessing. So it's hard times, but we'll definitely get through this together. I hope you guys are spending a lot of time out in your gardens, starting your vegetable gardens, starting your perennial flower gardens, and everything else that you're growing. While you've got some spare time, now's the time to do it. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're having a great gardening adventure, and we'll see you in the next video.